Mr. Edit Man presents. George Carlin said, think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that. What real life example have you seen that validates this view? A woman I used to work with who insisted that any animal could reproduce with any other animal. She believed that sperm from any animal was the same, and that DNA was irrelevant. She believed this because she once saw some sickly, possibly deformed puppies, and decided that they must have been half dog and half rat. There is a considerable overlap between the intelligence of the smartest bears and the dumbest tourists. Yosemite Park Ranger on why it's hard to design a bear-proof garbage can. I used to work in Banff National Park. One day at the end of the tour I was driving some guests back to their hotel and the woman was adamant that Banff was clearly a very dangerous place to visit since we just let wild animals run around everywhere. They should be in cages. Had to fight the urge to throw her off the bus pretty hard. Some other gems that came up in the past include a guest insisting he needed to change money they got in BC to Alberta currency. Not a real thing. A man arrived very irate that the entire Trans-Canada Highway was not lit with proper street lamps every 100 yards. That would be a stunning waste of energy. Not to mention probably cost more than our national budget. And your car has lights on it. More than if you have grossly underestimated the distances involved in a country like Canada. No. You cannot drive from Calgary to Toronto and back in the same day for lunch at the CN Tower. I worked at a bank. Mobile depositing had just became a thing. We received a picture of someone's cash for deposit. Yay. One of my nieces had a cold as a toddler and was breathing through her mouth. My ex-Bill flipped out because he did not want her to get carbon monoxide poisoning from breathing through her mouth instead of her nose. The normal way. I read things like this and start asking myself, why would anyone think this? How would this even work? And then I realize, this is the kind of stupid I do not want to understand. Yeah. I used to try and educate people like this. Then I realized it's like playing chess with a pigeon. They'll just malarkey all over the board and strut around like they have won regardless. On 9/11 the general manager called his daughter who was attending ASU to wake her up and make sure she saw what was going on. The customer service manager said it would not be on her TV yet. Arizona is 2 hours behind us. I worked at Little Caesars and we were proofing the dough for pizza. My boss said at 7 p.m. that the dough needed to rise for 12 hours and took out her calculator to do the math. So I said that's gonna be 7 a.m. Then she said the dough will expire in 48 hours and started doing the math again. I told her it would expire 2 days from now and she said that's kinda weird how that works out. I quit shortly after that. Infantryman was told to trim the hedges, so he lifted the lawnmower. His buddy started it. As a brand new medic, I spent about 6 hours pulling finger meat from the hedges. In grade 10, we had a science test and the teacher gave 1 point for putting a date on the paper and 1 point for your name on the paper. And then there were 98 points for the rest of the test. A guy sitting in front of me got 0.500. Didn't write the date and only wrote his first name. Just scroll down a web page or Facebook feed and have a look at the ads. Things like only 2% can solve this puzzle malarkey like that. Those ads get posted so much because they actually work on a lot of people. Ugh, these are the worst. Only 5% of people are smart enough to get this right. Can you? And then it's usually some stupid grade school riddle that I have known the answer to since I was 7. Or some complicated math equation that any middle schooler who remembers PEMDAS could easily solve. I actually had people on my Facebook who would share their results for these tests. Like, OMG, look how smart I am. I knew the answer. I mean, sure. There are probably people who will not be able to answer these. But it's definitely not 95%. And if you're dumb enough to actually believe that only 5% of the people who read that post can solve it and feel like knowing the answer somehow gives you bragging rights, you're definitely not winning any intelligence awards. You are severely overestimating how many people remember middle school math. I once got into an argument with someone over my own name. There are 2 pronunciations, German and English, and they just couldn't accept the fact that I use the English pronunciation despite the fact that we were speaking English and it's what I have used my whole life. But nope, I was lying to mess with them. Myself. Looking for my phone when it was in my hand all the time. Then answering a call and continuing looking for it during the call. Me. On a call with my mom. Getting ready to leave the house but spending 20 minutes freaking out that I cannot find my phone. My mom asking if it checked my purse. People that cut holes in their masks because it's easier to breathe. I was doing a covered decan of a medical supply warehouse that had a confirmed positive employee not too long ago, and while my team was inside doing our thing, the floor/shift manager was following us around without a mask or gloves or really any of the proper PPE except for a high-vis vest and steel toe boots. I had to tell her to leave the room. I was fogging with viricide. Edit. Meanwhile, we were wearing full level C hazmat suits with P100 combo cartridge respirators and all seams taped up. What is viricide? Any physical or chemical agent that either deactivates or destroys a virus. The specific product we typically use is a disinfectant called Shockwave. The fact Florida had to tell people not to shoot at the hurricane. One of my closest friends, really good guy but well in learning Spanish, and I once told him I was reading this Don Quijote book. I complained about how difficult it was because it was written in 1605, and he said wait. Spanish existed back then. I teach 6th grade. One time a parent came to me after trying to help their child with math homework and asked, "What number is X worth?" It feels like it changes with every problem. On the Man show they set up a booth on some pier, I think Santa Monica, and were getting women to sign up to end women's suffrage. Tons of women were signing. Obviously being the Man show, this was a joke on women, but the reality is the amount of people in general who do not know suffrage is the right to vote and not some sort of suffering is far too high. Was at a party and someone's malarkey old truck got stuck in some mud, so instead of sobering up and coming back the next day, he makes a Molotov cocktail with gas and throws it at the truck. The truck caught fire and was completely destroyed. The flat earther that tried to launch himself into ducking space and died. Every time I put on my glasses so I can see better while looking for my glasses. I once offered a girl a tuna sandwich and made a comment about the tuna being dolphin friendly. She then said I thought tuna fish came from dolphins. I worked with a lady who was remarking on how a friend of hers had lost a bunch of weight. She pondered, "I wonder how many Diet Cokes she had to drink to do that." Edit. Same lady was convinced beyond repair that when you sneeze, the air only comes out of your nose. There was no convincing her otherwise. That people act surprised at the total death count going up. It's always going to go up. If it was going down, that's an entirely different pandemic altogether. The people who believe 5G is responsible for spreading the virus. Seriously, I do not understand how electromagnetic signals could possibly distribute a biologically impactful virus. Seriously, there's a new low every month/year. I had a bald man return a hairdryer because it burnt his head. A former coworker was talking about how she wanted to go back to school to get her master's degree because she only had a bachelorette degree and wanted more job opportunities. I said, "Do you mean a bachelor's degree?" She insisted it was pronounced bachelorette when it was given to a woman. Then she led me back to her office and pointed at her diploma to the word baccalaureate and said, "See, bachelorette." I had a co-worker, really sweet girl, but dumb as malarkey, tell me she smoked American spirits because they were non-addictive. See, as she showed me the box. "Oh, honey, no, that says no additives." Such a sweet, stupid girl. She was a good server, at least. I just finished tutoring to Intro to CAMP-C courses. Lesson 1 in about defining variables. Naturally, there's people that did not know how to do that by the final. People learn at different rates. I get that. But how did you not learn lesson 1 after 15 weeks, 20-ish homework assignments, 7 quizzes, and 2 previous exams? I have met people in college unable to read at a child's level. I was tutoring some kids and was shocked as hell. I could not figure out how they had the marks to get into the school in the first place. Turns out they did not get in based on their own merit. Really pissed me off and opened my eyes. The kids I helped were good kids, but they should be able to read better than my elementary school aged child. Which of course they definitely could not. The average voter. Churchill said it best. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. I work in it. I once had a lady call me from home because she could not get connected to her VPN. I asked her if she was connected to her home wireless network. She replied saying that she did not have home wireless. I then asked how she was connecting to the internet. Her reply was, "I'm using the cell tower. I can see it from my house." While this is technically possible with a hotspot or cellular card in your PC, this ISN not what she meant. She thought she could get internet service via Wi-Fi from the cell tower. In the 80s, UNW attempted to compete with McDonald's quarter pounder burger by selling a third pounder for the same price. The operation failed tremendously, with virtually no one buying the burger. When they surveyed customers for an explanation, the majority of customers responded that they did not want to pay the same price for less meat. Their customers genuinely believed that 1/3 was less than 1/4 and refused to try the new UNW burger because of it. I used to work at a burger Shake Shack type place. Oftentimes people would read the menu at all and just open with it like a cheeseburger and naturally would ask 1/4 or 1/3 pound. The amount/variety of people who just said whichever's bigger/smaller astounded me. I have experienced something similar at the restaurant I work at. If someone orders a glass of wine I ask, would you like a 6 ounces or 8 ounce glass? And they say whichever is bigger. Like I can understand maybe not knowing fractions, but you cannot verbalize that you know 8 is bigger than 6. Groups of people leaving their house to block the roads to a hospital because they're upset that they cannot leave their house. I work at a restaurant. We were low on tomatoes for our tomato soup, so one person grabbed potatoes to see if we could use those instead. The amount of people that seemingly failed/skipped/did not pay attention to high school science/biology/chemistry class. I took my very first chemistry class when I was in the Navy, age 22. We were learning a bunch of chemical formulas, but the instructors assumed that we would know that they function as equations. For the first few weeks I was memorizing them by rote. One day I was like, huh, look at that. There's the same number of O's on the left as on the right. Then I noticed the H's were the same way, and then I laughed to keep from crying. I used to teach university students. The kids were 20, 21 years old, and in the second year of either molecular biology, biochemistry, or microbiology. When I handed back assignments I told them that they were alphabetized by last name. Every week 90% of them would flip through the stack one by one, whether their name was Atkins or Zanzibar. They did not listen. They did not learn. I had a 16-year-old new start ask me at work, was the world black and white before they invented color TVs? Nice guy. Dumb as a rock. Knew a kid who drank bleach to prove it will not kill you. A week later he showed up at school after taking a shot. He said he proved his point when the teacher asked why he was bragging about it. Mr. Hawk just said, but you cannot argue that without that medical treatment you would have died, though you even said you have stomach damage and a burn esophagus yourself. This kid was bragging about that. He was not mentally disabled or otherwise. He was just that kind of idiot. When I was in high school, we were reading a short story about what would have happened if the Japanese attacked us back with nuclear weapons after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A girl in my class raised her hand and said something along the lines of, why does this matter? None of it is real anyway. The teacher had to ask her to clarify, but this girl thought WWII and the bombing of Japan were just from a movie and did not actually happen. The best part is, the girl was half Japanese. My family is full of morons. The best one was when my cousin walked into work one day and I looked up and said, OMG, can you believe they now put a limit on how many times you can breathe in a day? And her reply was something along the lines of, how am I supposed to do that? Also the time she thought the string attached to a balloon on a table was stiff and holding the balloon up, running out of fuel multiple times and calling to say she's broken down. She has children. Scary world. You have made it until the end of this video. Now listen here, and listen here closely. Like and subscribe for more curated content by Mr. Edit Man. Thanks for watching.